Morning, YouTube America. My continuing attempt to share my opinions and views on gaming and role-playing in general, playing the Game Master role. Welcome to my mobile abode as it is, Ford Focus, mother's Ford Focus. Still trying to, get a leg up in the world in this slow process. I'm going to discuss experience. Giving experience and doling it out, if you will, to your players in such a manner that it is conducive with the style of play you've chose, and yet while being generous, not being too generous. I've played with a few people in the past who, when they GM'd, didn't quite understand the concept. One was extremely tight-fisted with his experience, and the other one doled it out with shovels. If your intentions is to run a short minimum maximum game, min-max game, where you're gonna max out the character potential as fast as possible, then giving a large dosage of percentage points is, not necessarily a bad thing. You can look at the maximum end of what experience you can gain per level and allow them to level up every game session. This will definitely get your increase. The downside with this is, of course, it just depends on how you want to look at it. It's not always a downside. You're going to spend a lot more time with your players advancing their characters and dealing with setting up their feats and increasing their strength and their abilities and such forth. And I think, in part, in some games, that's for some players, that's the highlight of the game, and it can become, the sole purpose of the game, and that's not necessarily a good thing as far as I'm concerned. I guess it's a matter of opinion again. The other side of that, of course, is looking at the minimum possible experience to give out. This guarantees a lot longer stretch of time. It also can be considered by some people to be more realistic. In the real world, we don't gain experience in a few hours or a few brief encounters or something. It takes time, weeks, months, and they try to replicate that in a game setting. Now, if you're running a long-term campaign where we're talking months, maybe even years, where everybody's the same characters, short of something happening to one of them characters or one of the players in the same environment with the same set of goals and so forth, having a lower end of your experience is not necessarily a bad thing. I still think you need to be, as a GM, fairly generous without being too overabundant. It can be a trick. It can be a bit of a trick to learn how to moderate and to judge what warrants experience and what doesn't. A lot of the later versions of Dungeons and Dragons put a cap on low-end experience. So if you're encountering creatures that or situations that are considered well below the hit die level expected by the character's levels, then you don't get experience at all. So a group of 10th level adventurers encountering much worse level goblins, unless they're encountering a large quantity of them, it shouldn't be a cakewalk. It should just waltz right through these little guys and kick them to the curb and mess up their day and ruin their breakfast without breaking a sweat. The implication there is that they're beneath their character's a learning curve, so they gain no experience from it. The typical response for a lot of startup GMs is to throw more of these little guys at the players. So instead of having 4 or 10, which is, being above 10 is hard to manage. I don't care who you are, unless you're doing it in squad-based combat, which, I've run a lot of those. My Stellar Frontiers is set up for squad-based combat. So, it's not practical to have a horde of goblins come rushing in. I mean, there's ways of handling that. We'll talk about that one of these days soon. Excuse me, it's 40. I'm still working on getting my coffee. The downside, like I said, to doing this is that you slow down the progression and also kind of annoy your players. They want that advancement. They live for that next feat or that next ability. Just a little bit more hit points that'll make it so they can not be on the ground all the time during conflict. And the other side of to me of dealing with experience, too much of your experience, inexperienced GMs focus on the combat side of things. This is the only way to gain experience, as far as many of these fellas are concerned, fellas and ladies. The truth of the matter is, in my opinion, again, the whole experience of the game itself generates experience. So I believe, and I've said this before, I give out experience for creative use of role playing, creative use of character, thinking outside the box, becoming enthusiastic about a situation and overcoming that situation and drawing your fellow players into the plan. All this is worth experience. Then there's you're using the skill sets. Like I said, if you're just trying to climb over a fence, using a check, a climb check is kind of overkill, unless of course you're a fully encumbered knight and you're trying to climb over a fence while trying to get at a bad guy or get away from a bad guy. That's a different thing. That is a completely different thing. So you look at that sort of perspective, yeah, I could see giving experience in that aspect. On the other hand, if I have an inexperienced climber who's striving to climb after something to achieve a goal or to interact or save a comrade or get away from a foe, that's worth experience. So is the use of non-conventional means of acquiring and dealing with situation. It's easy to pull out a bow or an axe and go after something, or to fire off fireballs at something. It's a much harder thing to talk your way out of a situation, or to manipulate the NPCs in such a manner that they don't know they're being manipulated, or to set it up. A little slide trickery can allow you to misdirect the problem onto somebody else in the neighborhood. And while that may or may not be in line with the alignment of the characters and the players themselves, if it is, hey, great opportunity for experience. If it comes off well, even better. That's another thing to keep in mind. Win or lose. That's something I've seen a lot of GMs fail to practice in the past. Excuse you asked me. Yeah, excuse me. You asked me. They fail to reward experience if the attempt is made and it fails. It's the attempt that matters, not the success or the failure. Now, the success or the failure can gauge the amount of experience that they get, but if they make an attempt, even if it's a total fail, it should be worth something. I also like to hand out experience in small increments to individuals for thinking outside the box or somehow making the environment of the game's session more enjoyable for the rest without overdoing it. Little here, a little there. That's individualism. We don't want to have one character getting too far advanced than his compadres, because once that happens, now you got an unbalanced game, or you might see favorites. Somebody will feel that there's favoritism going on, and so you got to kind of meter out. If I give somebody X amount of experience points, I need to be hoping that I can give the other player something at some point to balance it out. And if you believer in balance, there's a reason why there's game theory and game mechanics and the chaos factor, the chaos theory in gaming. It's to allow for a solid balance or an even foundation, because if we're rocking the boat too much, it becomes to the point where nobody wants to play the game. Now you've defeated the whole purpose of why we all got together in the first place. All that work and efforts you put into creating a world that they want to play in is moot if they won't play on it, or they find reasons not to. It's a harder. Well, we're back to that learning curve thing. You have to learn and experience it. Experience is a means. No, I think so. This has been brought up before in other people's video logs, and I've mentioned it once. That some people ask, "How do you win? How do you win?" Well, you don't win, but you do keep score. And in order to, the win is to succeed and to continue on and keep playing and enjoy yourself. That's how you win. Whether you're going through character after character or the same character for 20 months, it's a win-win. The way we really win, though, is to keep score through experience and through loot, if you will. We gain loot to gain stuff, magic items, better gear, uh, better amenities, and we gain experience to gain better abilities, feats, and skill sets to increase our abilities and our character's ability to do interesting and fun things. So when you're thinking about handing out your experience, keep that in mind. Try to find a good balance. You don't necessarily go by what the book says by hard. You may get a hardcore rule, I guess, if you wish, but keep it in mind as a guidance, and you should be able to level or to leaven what's given there with practical view of what you're doing and what your intentions are for the game. It's much better for everybody and more enjoyable. Also, it helps if you develop yourself, even if you write this down as a small note to yourself somewhere, a formula for giving out experience. A lot of people think I don't quite get what I say when I say that. What I mean, uh, consistency. That's what we're talking about here. It's consistency. You can have some spontaneity in that, but still be consistent. I can go to a McDonald's and get a hamburger, but I can get it made in 25 different ways. But it's always going to be a hamburger. So if I make up a system for handing out experience, my players are going to get used to this, and they're going to know that, well, if we've achieved something, then the reward, I should be able to expect this kind of reward somewhere within the expected boundary. So I have the formula, and it works. My formula doesn't necessarily work for everybody else, but it's you know part of it's up here, part of it I wrote down because up here starts to get a little confused and overloaded sometimes. Anyway, we'll call this one a day, and hope you have a good day and enjoy the holidays. Christmas is coming, and remember, life is what you make it.